Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're taking a deep dive into something pretty interesting, strategic project management.
Yeah.
We actually got a syllabus sent in for a university module on this, and our listener wants to know, what's the big deal with this whole subject?
Yeah, it's a great topic. I mean, think about it. Projects are all around us,
Right.
whether it's, building these amazing skyscrapers or you're launching like the next big tech product
Mm-hmm.
or even coordinating something as complex as the Olympics.
Right.
This is about how those big ideas actually come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump right in. So the syllabus kind of starts at the very beginning, what is a project anyway?
Yeah.
And they define it as, this temporary endeavor. It's got a clear start and a clear finish. And the whole point is to create something totally new and unique.
Right.
But then how is that different from just, I don't know, running a business?
Well, that's where we get into the distinction between projects and what we call operations.
Okay.
So think about it like this. Running a restaurant, that's an ongoing operation. But if you think about designing and building that restaurant in the first place, that was a project.
Oh, okay.
So projects are all about creating something that wasn't there before.
Got it. So it's like the syllabus gives these examples of, building bridges, shipbuilding, software development.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was even thinking something like the whole evolution of ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
from version 3.5 to 4.0, that was a project, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to point out, it's not always these massive undertakings.
Right.
Projects can be personal too.
Ooh, yeah.
Like think about planning a wedding,
Uh-oh.
renovating your home.
Oh, yeah, my wedding was a project.
There you go.
Not the most successful one, but I learned some lessons.
Yeah.
I guess the hard way about project management.
Well, sometimes experience is the best teacher.
That's right.
But speaking of learning, the syllabus lays out these 3 core stages of project management.
Okay.
We have planning,
Okay.
scheduling,
Mm.
and control.
Okay, so it's like if you're planning a road trip,
Exactly.
you don't just hop in the car and go. You
Mm.
got to figure out your route, how much gas, snacks, and where are we stopping along the way?
Precisely. So in that planning stage,
Yeah.
that's where you're setting the foundation.
Right.
You define those goals, you gather your team, you figure out the scope of the project,
Mm-hmm.
and then, crucially, you got to estimate those resources.
Resources, okay.
How much time was the cost going to be? How much people power are we going to need?
Got it.
Then we move into scheduling.
Okay.
And that's where things get really detailed. We're talking timelines,
Mm-hmm.
allocating those resources, maybe even breaking out those Gantt charts we hear so much about.
I was going to say, those are coming, right?
They're coming. And then finally, control. This is where we keep everything on course. So we're monitoring the progress, we're managing the costs, making sure everything's meeting those quality standards.
Right.
But here's the thing. Control is all about adaptation because things rarely go perfectly according to plan.
Right.
You need to be ready to adjust to steer that project back on track when, those unexpected detours pop up.
Yeah, it's like juggling, keeping all those things in motion.
Exactly.
Which brings us to this idea of the performance triangle.
Yes.
Or sometimes called the iron triangle, which the syllabus calls out as super important.
Yeah, and it's a crucial visual for understanding the trade-offs that are inherent in every project.
Okay.
So we've got these 3 sides to our triangle. We've got time, cost, and quality. And often you can't maximize all 3.
Wait, you're telling me I can't have it all?
Let's just say it requires careful balancing,
Okay.
right? So if you want a project done quickly, you might have to sacrifice quality or increase costs. If you want the highest quality, well, you might need more time and budget.
That makes sense.
And the syllabus uses a great example here. They talk about FIFA's fan accommodations for the 2022 World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about pressure. Delivering this massive project on time, within budget, all while making sure those fans have a decent place to stay.
Yeah, so many people coming in. Wow. Okay, so that's a real-world example of the iron triangle in action.
Absolutely. Now, beyond the nuts and bolts of planning and scheduling, the syllabus also emphasizes that project management really requires a different way of thinking.
Okay.
They even call it a non-traditional leadership style.
Ooh, that sounds kind of rebellious.
It is, in a way,
Yeah.
because you have to think outside that traditional management box. It's about being forward-thinking, anticipating those challenges, always being 2 steps ahead.
So instead of just reacting to problems as they come up, you're trying to head them off at the pass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's about being performance-driven, so constantly monitoring that time, the cost, and the quality.
Right. Those 3 elements of the iron triangle.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then there's embracing the unexpected. planning for contingencies, being ready to adapt when those inevitable surprises come along.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So it's a lot about thinking ahead, being proactive.
It's like being a detective almost. You got to like anticipate. What else makes this leadership style so different?
It's about leading change.
Okay.
So project managers, they're essentially orchestrators of transformation. They're guiding their teams through these complex situations and often uncharted territory. And this kind of brings us to another point, which is project management as a profession.
Right, because the syllabus positions it as an evolving field.
Exactly.
It's got established knowledge, methodologies, professional organizations.
Yeah,
So it's not just winging it.
definitely not. So you have these frameworks like the PMBOK,
It'd be okay.
a project management body of knowledge.
Mhm.
And this, think of it as a comprehensive guide. It's got the essential processes, the best practices, even the language of project management.
Okay, so it's not like it's telling you one specific method. It's more like the toolbox.
Yeah, it's the toolbox, exactly. It covers a
Yeah.
wide range of topics, from scoping out that project, managing those potential risks, even communication strategies, stakeholder engagement.
That sounds helpful for anybody involved in a project,
Exactly.
not just the person with the official project manager title.
Absolutely, absolutely. So PMBK is a great resource for anyone who wants to understand how projects work.
Okay, so we've got PMBOK. The syllabus also mentions Prince 2.
Yeah.
What's different about that one?
So Prince 2, which stands for Projects in Controlled Environments, originated in the UK. And this is a very structured, process-driven methodology.
Okay, so if PMBOK is the toolbox, is it fair to say Prince 2 is like the blueprint?
I love that analogy, yeah.
Okay, right.
So Prince 2 provides a very specific framework, outlining those clear roles and responsibilities along with a defined set of processes.
Okay, so what are some of the key principles behind Prince 2?
So there are 7 core principles.
7. Okay, hit me.
All right. Continued business justification.
Okay.
Learn from experience. Define roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Manage by stages.
Okay,
Manage by exception.
Yeah.
Focus on products.
got it.
And tailor to suit the project environment.
Wow. Okay, that was a lot. But what's like the overarching theme running through all of those?
The core idea is to manage those projects in a controlled and systematic way,
Okay.
with clear accountability at each step and a real focus on delivering those tangible results.
So bringing order to the chaos.
Precisely. Now, PMBK and Prince 2 are widely recognized, but there are others out there. We have Agile, Scrum, Kanban.
Wow, there's a lot of these.
There's a lot. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses.
So how do you how does a project manager even know which one to use? Like choosing the right approach seems like it could be a project in itself.
It's true. Selecting the right methodology really depends on the specific project and that organizational context.
Okay.
So things like the size and complexity of the project, industry norms, even the team's culture all play a role.
So no magic formula. It's more like using the right tool for the job, just like picking the right tool out of the PMBOK toolbox.
Exactly.
Mm.
And a lot of times, experience and good judgment, that's the project manager's most valuable asset.
I can see that. So speaking of skills, like what actually makes a great project manager? Because syllabus mentions leadership, communication, problem solving, risk management, but what does that look like in the real world?
Okay, so let's imagine you're leading the development of a new mobile app.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
As the project manager, you need to clearly communicate those project goals. You need to keep your team motivated.
Right. Good communication. I can see how that can make or break a project,
It's crucial.
especially with deadlines and all the moving pieces.
Absolutely.
But what about problem solving? How does that fit into the picture?
Well, think about it. What happens if, let's say, a key developer suddenly leaves the team?
Oh,
Or you encounter unexpected technical roadblocks?
right.
You got to think on your feet, find those solutions quickly.
So you got to be adaptable, be resourceful.
Exactly. It's not enough to just follow a plan.
Right.
You got to be able to adjust when things inevitably go off course.
Right.
And then there's risk management. A good project manager anticipates those potential problems and they develop strategies to mitigate those risks.
Okay.
So for instance, what happens if the app launches with major bugs?
Uh-oh.
How do you handle the negative press and that user feedback?
That sounds really stressful.
It could be a high-pressure role.
Yeah.
That's where strong leadership comes in.
Okay.
A good project manager can inspire their team, even when things get tough.
Right.
It's about building that trust, that confidence, a positive, collaborative environment.
Yeah, so it's not just about checking boxes and following a process.
Right.
It's about leading and inspiring people.
Precisely. Project managers are At their core, leaders.
Yeah.
Their ability to build those relationships, communicate effectively, motivate others, that's as important as their technical know-how.
Okay, I'm seeing how this is all coming together. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We talked about what a project is, the challenges of managing these huge international projects.
Yeah.
We explored different approaches like PMBOK and Prince2,
hmm
talked about what makes a successful project manager.
We did. And we touched on the real-world complexities
Mm-hmm.
that those project managers face.
Mm-hmm.
Managing stakeholder expectations, navigating those cultural differences, embracing sustainable practices.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot to juggle.
So project management, it sounds demanding, but pretty rewarding.
It is.
It's about bringing people together, creating something new, making a real impact.
And speaking of impact, the syllabus highlights this really interesting case study that kind of encapsulates the complexities of project management.
Oh, okay, what's that?
The Millennium Dome.
Ugh, the Millennium Dome. Yeah. Huge project in the UK, right? Built to celebrate the new millennium. But things didn't exactly go according to plan, did they? It was a fascinating project.
Yeah.
But it definitely had its share of challenges. I mean, the dome itself, it was this marvel of engineering, but there were so many financial and political hurdles,
Yeah.
and it didn't really resonate with the public the way they hoped.
It's a prime example of a project that achieved technical success.
Okay.
They did build this incredible structure,
Right.
but they encountered a different set of difficulties in other areas.
Oh, interesting.
It became this hot topic in the media,
Right.
faced a lot of criticism.
So it's a reminder that success isn't just about meeting deadlines and staying within budget. There's more to it than ticking those boxes.
Absolutely. You have to consider that larger context, the long-term impact, the value that a project creates.
Right. So in the case of the Millennium Dome, they achieved the initial goal
Yeah.
of building this iconic structure,
It did.
but they didn't necessarily achieve those wider objectives. Right.
The less tangible ones.
Precisely. And that leads to a pretty thought-provoking question for us to consider.
Okay, what's that?
How can we ensure that projects aren't just successful in terms of technical completion,
Right.
but also in terms of their overall impact and value? How do we even define and measure that broader success?
That's a good question to think about. It's about considering the why behind a project,
Yes,
the purpose, its long-term effects, not just focusing on the how of getting it built.
exactly. And it reinforces this idea that project management involves more than just those tools and techniques.
Right.
It requires vision, strong leadership, a commitment to creating something meaningful that benefits both people and the planet.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to wrap up on. So, to our listener, we hope this deep dive into strategic project management has shed some light on the key concepts, the intricacies of this really dynamic field. Remember, whether you're organizing a small personal project or leading a large-scale endeavor, those principles and insights that we've discussed, those can help you achieve your goals
Yeah.
and maybe even make a positive difference in the world.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. All right, let's dig into some of those methodologies and frameworks a little deeper.
Okay, sounds good.
We touched on the PMBOK earlier, the project management body of knowledge.
Right.
Sounds pretty official.
It is considered like a foundational resource in the field. Think of it as a comprehensive guide to the essential processes, the best practices, and even the language of project management.
So instead of laying out a specific method, it's more like a universal toolbox for project managers.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It covers a wide range of topics.
Mm.
Everything from scoping out a project and managing potential risks to things like communication strategies and stakeholder engagement.
Oh, okay. That sounds helpful for anyone who's involved in a project, not just the person officially wearing the project manager hat.
Absolutely, yeah. The PMBO is a valuable resource for anyone who wants to understand how projects work, regardless of their specific role.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got PMBO. The syllabus also mentions Prince2.
Yeah.
What makes that methodology unique?
So Prince2, which stands for Projects in Controlled Environments, it originated in the UK.
Okay.
And it's a very structured, process-driven methodology.
Okay, so if PMBO is the toolbox, would it be fair to say Prince2 is like the detailed blueprint?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I like that. Prince2 provides a very specific framework. It outlines clear roles and responsibilities,
Okay.
along with a defined set of processes.
Okay, so what are some of the key principles behind Prince2?
Well, it's based on 7 core principles.
Okay, 7 core principles.
Right. We've got continued business justification. We've got learn from experience. We've got defined roles and responsibilities. We have manage by stages. We have manage by exception. We have focus on products. And then finally, tailored to suit the project environment.
Okay, wow. That was a lot. But what's like the overarching theme running through all those?
The core idea is to manage those projects in a controlled, systematic way,
Okay.
with clear accountability at each step and a real focus on delivering those tangible results.
So it's about bringing order to the potential chaos of a complex project.
Exactly. Now, while PMBO and Prince 2 are widely recognized, there are other methodologies and frameworks out there as well, things like Agile, Scrum, and Kanban.
Wow, so many options.
Yeah. And each one, has its strengths and weaknesses.
So how does a project manager even know which one to use? It seems like, choosing the right approach could be a project in itself.
You're not wrong. Selecting the right methodology really depends on the specifics of the project and the organizational context.
Okay, so things like,
Things like the size and complexity of the project,
mm.
industry norms, even the team's culture, that all plays a role.
Okay, so there's no magic formula. It's about choosing the best tool for the job, much like selecting the right tool from that PMBOK toolbox we talked about.
Exactly. And often, experience and good judgment, those are the most valuable assets a project manager can possess. The best project managers are the ones who can adapt
Okay,
and tailor different methodologies to the unique needs of each project.
that makes sense. So speaking of skills, what qualities make a truly great project manager? Because the syllabus mentions leadership, communication, problem solving, and risk management. But what does that actually look like in action?
Okay, let's imagine you're leading the development of a new mobile app.
Okay, cool. I like apps.
As the project manager, you need to clearly communicate the project's goals and keep your team motivated.
Right. So strong communication is critical. I can see how that could make or break a project, especially when you're dealing with tight deadlines and lots of moving parts. But what about problem solving? How does that play into the project manager's role?
Well, think about it. What happens if, let's say, a key developer suddenly leaves the team? Or you encounter unexpected technical roadblocks? You need to think on your feet and find solutions quickly.
Oh, right. So being adaptable and resourceful is crucial. It's not enough to just follow the plan. You need to be able to adjust when things inevitably go off course.
Exactly. And then there's risk management. A good project manager anticipates those potential problems and develops strategies to mitigate those risks. So, for instance, what happens if the app launches with major bugs?
Uh-oh, not good.
How do you handle negative press and user feedback?
That sounds incredibly stressful.
It can be a high-pressure role. That's where strong leadership comes in. A good project manager can inspire their team even when things get tough. It's about building trust, confidence, a positive collaborative environment.
Yeah, so it's not just about ticking boxes and following processes. It's about leading and inspiring people.
Precisely. Project managers are, at their core, leaders. Their ability to build relationships, to communicate effectively, to motivate others, that's as important as their technical know-how.
Okay, I see that. So we've covered a lot of ground here,
Yeah.
from defining what a project is to the challenges of managing those massive international projects. We explored different approaches like PMEOK and Prince 2,
We did.
and talked about the qualities that make a successful project manager.
Yeah, and we touched on the real-world complexities that project managers face.
Right.
Managing stakeholder expectations, navigating those cultural differences, embracing sustainable practices.
Right, it's a lot to juggle. It sounds like project management is a demanding but incredibly rewarding field.
It is. It really is. It's about bringing people together, creating something new, and making a real impact.
And speaking of impact, the syllabus highlights a pretty captivating case study that kind of encapsulates those complexities of project management,
Oh, which one's that?
the Millennium Dome.
Ah, yes, the Millennium Dome.
Right, the Millennium Dome. So it was this massive project
Yes.
intended to be this beacon of optimism for the new millennium, but it ended up facing quite a lot of scrutiny.
It did. It became a bit of a political football, really.
Yeah, so let's break down what happened there.
Okay, so the Millennium Dome, like you said, was built to mark the year 2000.
Hmm.
And it was this huge, futuristic-looking dome located in southeast London. I mean, architecturally, it was quite impressive.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of it, like a giant silver spaceship landed on the banks of the Thames.
Exactly. But from the outset, the project was plagued by, well, challenges, let's say.
What kind of challenges?
Well, first, there was the issue of funding. The project was initially supposed to be funded entirely through private investment. But when that didn't quite materialize, the government had to step in and provide public funding, which of course led to a lot of debate and criticism about how taxpayer money was being spent.
Right, because anytime public funds are used for something like that, there's going to be scrutiny. People want to know, are we getting value for our money?
Exactly. And in the case of the Millennium Dome, the public wasn't entirely convinced that this was the best use of their money, especially when the initial estimates for the project's cost kept rising.
Oh, so there are budget overruns. That's never a good sign.
Not in project management, no.
Yeah.
And then there was the issue of content. The organizers had this ambitious vision for the Dome to be a showcase of, like, British innovation and culture. But they struggled to come up with a cohesive and compelling theme for the exhibitions inside the Dome.
So they had this amazing structure,
Yes,
but they weren't quite sure what to put in it.
that's a bit of a simplification.
Hmm.
But yeah, the content didn't quite live up to the hype, and the public felt, well, a bit underwhelmed.
So it ended up being a bit of a, I guess, a cautionary tale in the world of project management.
Right.
A reminder that success isn't just about meeting deadlines and staying within budget.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how a project can achieve technical success. I mean, they did build this incredible structure, but still faced difficulties in other areas.
Like failing to meet those broader objectives, the less tangible goals that are harder to measure.
Exactly. Things like public engagement, lasting legacy, overall value for money. The Millennium Dome, while it's still standing and has been repurposed, it didn't quite achieve the impact that its creators initially envisioned.
So even though it was a technical marvel, it ultimately wasn't considered a resounding success. It's a reminder that project management is about so much more than just the technical aspect.
Absolutely. It requires vision, it requires strong leadership, and it requires a deep understanding of the project's context and its intended impact.
Right, and it highlights the importance of stakeholder management
Definitely. Keeping everyone on board, managing those expectations.
and making sure that the project aligns with those broader strategic goals. Because at the end of the day, a project is only truly successful if it delivers value to the people it's intended to serve.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive into strategic project management. We've covered a lot of ground today, from defining what a project is to the challenges of managing those massive international projects. We've explored different approaches and frameworks and talked about the qualities that make a successful project manager. And we've looked at some real-world examples, both successes and, well, maybe not so successful, but always with valuable lessons to be learned. So to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of this dynamic field. And remember, whether you're planning a small personal project or leading a large-scale endeavor, the principles we've discussed can help you achieve your goals and maybe even make a positive impact on the world. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.